years, like, to that company as, like, a full-time, like, wrestler. And, like, when he was, like, on top, like, he was on top for, like a decade. Like, he's seen as just an absolute star. What can I say? I know it got repetitive and tiresome for many, but no, seen as one of the greatest of all time, hands down. So the next we'd have the ECW World Championship match. It'd be John Morrison defending against CM Punk. These two had previously faced off at the Vengeance Night of Champions pay-per-view a month ago, where Nitro and Punk had faced each other to crown the new ECW champion after the title was previously, as noted, vacated after Bobby Lashley got drafted to Raw. The match of Vengeance to crown the new champion was originally supposed to be CM Punk versus Chris Benoit, but the plans would be changed with Benoit not being there that night. Why he wasn't there, we all know why, so I'm not going to get into that. But it was later revealed that the original plan for Benoit was to win the ECW title, and I guess they figured that if they couldn't make Benoit the champion, then they needed to make Johnny Nitro the champion. I just love that logic, you know, instead of like making the guy who was originally supposed to be in the match the champ, since obviously he wasn't there, I mean, let's just make the replacement guy beat him, because the hell with it. I just love that. We'd have Joey Styles, who would note that this is the first time the ECW Championship has been defended at the Great American Bash pay-per-view. And he was Johnny Nitro when he had won the title at Vengeance, but he's no longer Johnny Nitro here because he had transitioned from Johnny Nitro into John Morrison, which I always thought that switch from, Nitro to Morrison, and even especially as champion, I always thought that was weird. But I mean, that's what he's best known for to this day as, and he still is John Morrison today in modern times, so I guess there's that. I just thought the way they did it was just weird. Because one thing, like if they'd moved him over there and, he just has a gimmick change or like a change of persona and that's that, but he was literally like the champion and he won it as Johnny Nitro, and then as the champion they made him John Morrison. I just thought that was weird. In this match there was a slingshot DDT from Punk and a monkey flip by Punk to Morrison, which John would oversell big time. But Punk would then try to, I guess, bring Morrison back inside the ring by climbing up the steel steps, and Morrison would pull him down on top of the steps. Then from there, Morrison would take control for a bit. A little later, Morrison would go for a superplex on Punk, but then Punk would front suplex Morrison off and hit him with a crossbody. Then Punk would start a comeback. There would be a series of roll-ups on one another. Then Morrison, fast-forwarding a bit later, would try to leave the match with the title in hand, but Punk would prevent him from doing so. CM Punk would then try to hit a springboard a springboard clothesline, and a mid-air would get caught by a kick from Morrison. That would hit Punk in the knee, and then all of a sudden Morrison would just cover him for the pin and beat him just like that. Very odd finish to an otherwise okay match. Like this was all right. This wasn't a bad match at all. It was okay, but the finish was just really, really strange. I just didn't understand it. Like I don't know. I'm trying to like think of a way to like reason or make some kind of sense out of it. That was one of the weirdest finishes I think I've ever seen. So John Morrison would retain the ECW title 7 minutes and 50 seconds. 2.5 rating for me. It was okay. But yeah, that's that. Next, we would have the Texas Bull Rope match. It would be Randy Orton versus Dusty Rhodes. This, I believe, until nowadays, they're running with this persona again, but I think this was really the final time we got the legend killer Randy Orton, because after this match with Dusty, Randy would set his sights on the WWE title, and I don't really recall him doing anything else with any other legends from the previous generations after this, so I think this is the last of the legend killer Randy Orton. Of course, now going all the way to this, what's going on now with on WWE and with Monday Night Raw. You got Orton, and he's just starting to do the Legend Killer gimmick again after the match with Edge and stuff like that. But yeah, I think this is the last of it at this point. Before the match would begin, Orton would try to avoid being tied to the strap, and then the bell would sound. Dusty would toy with Randy a bit, and he'd trip him with the bull rope. Then he'd hit him with a couple of bionic elbows, and then toy with him even further. He'd try to hit Orton in the head with the cowbell, but he'd move out of the way. Then Randy would try to walk away from the match, but he'd still be strapped to the bull ropes. Dusty would pull him back. He'd then hit another bionic elbow, and then Orton would try to start to target the knee of Dusty. He'd hit him with the cowbell and the knee and start to take over the match. Then Orton would apply a headlock and Dusty would try to fight back into it. He'd start to fire back with some lefts and another bionic elbow. Then Dusty would try to drop Randy with an elbow, but he'd move out of the way. Then Orton would wind up the strap and hit Dusty over the head with the cowbell, and he'd pin him from there, and the match would be over. This would be the final time that Dusty Rhodes would compete in a match in the WWE. This is also basically everything I pretty much expected this to be. You know, it was what it was, but at least it was short. So Randy Orton would win, 5 minutes, 40 seconds, star rating. After the match, Randy would look to punt Dusty in the head, but out would come Cody, and he stopped Orton from doing so to his father. So then next we would have the triple threat match for the World Heavyweight Championship. It'd be the Great Khali. He'd be defending against Kane and Batista. Rajan Singh would also be in Khali's corner. During the entrance for Khali, that is, he once again would hold up the World Championship upside down twice. My God. Because a lot of people probably remember when he won the world title in that Battle Royal on SmackDown. He had had the world title and he had held it upside down. And then here he is still, at the pay-per-view, holding it up upside down. And he did it, twice. To start the match, both Kane and Batista would go after Khali. Then Khali would hit them both with clotheslines. Then Khali would have the advantage over both competitors, dominating the match, hitting Batista with a chokeslam and hitting a chokeslam on Kane as well. Then Khali on the outside would take apart the ECW announcers table. Then Kane would try to chokeslam Khali, but Khali would fight him off. Batista would try to Batista bomb Khali, but wouldn't be able to do so. I don't know why he thought that would work. But then Kane and Batista would send Khali's head off the steel steps, and both would drive Khali through the announcers table, taking him out for a bit. After that, Kane and Batista would fight each other. Then Kane would hit Batista with a flying clothesline and was setting up to hit him with the chokeslam. But then Khali would come back in, and Kane would hit him with the chokeslam. He'd go for the pin, but Batista would be in to break it up. And then then Kane and Batista would fight each other again, this time on the outside of the ring. Then the match would be between Khali and Batista. Batista would hit the Great Khali with a spine buster and go for the pin, which would be broken up by Kane. This time, a little later, Kane would charge at Batista in the corner and would miss. Then Batista would go for the Batista bomb, and then Kane would fight out of it and hit Batista with a chokeslam. He'd cover Batista and get a very near fall out of it. Batista would come back with a spine buster followed up by a Batista bomb on Kane. Then he'd go for the pin, but then Khali would pull him out of the ring and take him out. And then back in the ring, Khali would hit Kane with the Khali plunge and pin Kane to retain the World Heavyweight title. Overall, not the best, but I will say this is actually better than I was expecting. And I guess all things considered, it served its purpose. I mean, you had, originally supposed to be Edge versus Kane, and then that got changed. So then, Khali and Batista were supposed to have the match at this pay-per-view, and then I guess they decided to just take all that and combine it into one because, this is basically just a makeshift world title match because he, didn't have much time to, put it together. So, they did what they did with it, but Khali would win 10 minutes, 40 seconds, 2-star rating, but as I said, it was far better than I was expecting. After that, we would have a Triple H return video. Triple H would return at SummerSlam after suffering a torn right quadricep injury back in early January. Following that, King Booker and Queen Sharmell would come out to the live audience. King Booker would say that Triple H did not receive his cease and desist order. He told Triple H that he's not the King of Kings. He's not the king of anything. There's only one king in the WWE, and that's himself, King Booker. Then he'd start to call out Jerry Lawler by calling him Jerome. I don't know why, that's kind of funny. But he would call Jerome Lawler. He'd want him to come in the ring and bow down and lay his crown at his feet. Lawler would grab a microphone and tell Booker that if he wanted his crown, he needed to come over there and take it from him. King Booker would then tell him that since he chooses to disobey a direct command, that he has no choice but to make this an act of treason. Then both Queen Sharmell and Booker would leave the ring and go back up the entranceway to the back, and this was simply done to set up a return match for Triple H against King Booker next month at SummerSlam. And now we'd have the WWE Championship match. The main event of the evening, it would be John Cena versus Bobby Lashley. Before the main event, we'd have a video package featuring several different stars talking about both Cena and Lashley. There wasn't a lot of heat between Cena and Lashley leading up to this match. They had previously shown video packages throughout the night, both of John Cena and Lashley earlier, in their careers, showing their highlights so far that they've had since they've been in WWE. So I actually thought this was a good way of previewing the match. So the stars in the video would include Batista, Ric Flair, Mick Foley, JBL, and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Then after they show the tail of the tape, something I actually wish they do nowadays a lot more. I wish they do that. It just gives it like a big time feel. It's a main event match. John Cena at this time was also enjoying a 308-day title reign, a near year-long reign. They'd even do the championship introduction, something also that wasn't done a lot during this time, which I also felt gave it like a big-time feel. To start the match, Cena and Lashley would have a stare down, then both men would walk up with the collar and elbow tie-up, trying to gain the power advantage. At the test of strengths, Lashley would then have control for the beginning part of the match. Cena would try to turn the momentum by hitting the top rope leg drop, and then Lashley in this match would apply a rear naked choke. Cena would get to his feet, and then Lashley would charge at him in the corner, missing. Then Cena would hit the sit-out side slam and the five-knuckle shuffle. But Lashley would fight out of it and... Oh, wait. Sorry, I missed a part. Cena would then, after that, go for the FU, but then Lashley would fight out of it and hit Cena with the power slam off the ropes for a 2 count. Lashley would also put Cena in the torture rack and drop him. And then, out of nowhere, Cena would hit the FU on Lashley. Then Cena would crawl over for the pin, but the delayed cover would give Lashley the time to recover and kick out of 2. Then Lashley would try to hit the spear, and Cena would get him with the drop toe hold into the STFU in the center of the ring. Despite the great ring positioning for this submission, Lashley would make it over to the ropes for the break. Then after Cena was talking with the referee, Mike Yoda, then Lashley would hit Cena with the spear and would go for the cover and get a 2 count as well. Then Cena and Lashley would be in the corner, and Lashley would be looking to go up to hit him with the, what looked like a superplex, but then Cena would lift him up and hit him with the super FU off the top. And then Cena would then pin Lashley for 3 and retain the WWE Championship. I really like this match. I think it's very, very underrated for both guys' career. I think I recently saw this match featured somewhere on the network, so I guess it's resurfaced again, but I think this match also proved here that Lashley should have became a top star in the WWE. I guess, there's still time, but, the fact it's 2020 now, and he still hasn't been a world champion in that company at least once is, beyond me. But unfortunately, nowadays, I'm just starting to get the feeling that, sadly, it just may never happen at this point, so that's unfortunate. Because he is a great talent. I really think he should be a world champion. So yeah, John Cena would win this match. They'd shake hands afterwards. 14 minutes, 52 seconds was the recorded time. 3.5 stars from me. Really good match. Enjoyed it. Underrated. Check that out. For the final show rating out of 10, I'd give this a 4. This was not a good pay-per-view at all. This was poor for the most part. The only matches on here that I really liked was the Jeff Hardy Umaga match and then the Lashley and Cena match, really. But as far as things to watch, I just watched the Cena and the Lashley match. Don't get me wrong, Umaga and Jeff Hardy was a good match. So, I'll just put that out there. It definitely was, a pretty good match. But, the Cena and Lashley match, if I had to, sell you off the show, obviously, it's the main event, so, that should be the selling point as it is. But if I had to, tell you just one thing to go and check out, in your spare time, it would definitely be the Cena and the Lashley match. That's probably about all I could recommend. So, that's all the time we have for today. I hope you guys like this one. Just some reminders to close out the show once again. JNC Radio is available on all platforms for podcasting, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio. You name it, we're on there. If not, we'll do our best and try and fix that. So let us know if we are not on those services. We'll do our best to try and correct that. And, of course, you can follow JNC Radio on Twitter and Instagram at JNC_radio. Be sure to like our official Facebook page. Our social media pages are the best way to stay on top of everything JNC Radio related. So Be sure to follow those pages if you want all the updates in case we're going to change like a show, or we're going to add a show, or we're going to change the time of when something's going to come.